What if you didn't wake up just to survive, but to live with intention? These 10 ancient Stoic practices aren't motivational fluff. They're real tools that have stood the test of time. Every morning is a chance to become more resilient, more clear, more courageous. Let me show you how. What if your morning wasn't just something to survive, but a powerful opportunity to shape the rest of your day? The Stoics believed that the way you start the morning is the way you start your life. They didn't wake up reaching for distractions. They woke up reaching for clarity. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, began his days not by thinking about political strategy or military affairs, but by reflecting on how to be a better human being. Because they understood, if your mind is untrained at the start of the day, the world will train it for you, and it won't be gentle. Modern life pulls you into urgency from the moment you open your eyes. Emails, notifications, obligations, but the Stoics did the opposite. They created a space before the noise, a space to remember, I am not here to react, I am here to respond with reason, strength, and virtue. They treated each morning like mental training, a rehearsal for the chaos ahead, not to pretend life is calm, but to be calm inside of it. This wasn't about rituals or routines. It was about reflection. What emotions will likely show up today? What situations could test me? And how do I want to meet them? Morning wasn't just the start of the day. It was a conscious moment to choose who you want to be before the world tries to choose for you. And when you do that consistently, your day doesn't control you. You guide it. You lead it. You embody it with intention. The Stoics didn't control the world, but they mastered how they showed up in it. And that mastery always began before sunrise, with a few honest, unfiltered thoughts, a breath, and the courage to be fully awake. Before the world starts making demands on your time, attention, and energy, there's one question that quietly defines the entire day ahead. What actually matters to me today? Not what's on your calendar, not what others expect, but what's essential, aligned, meaningful. Seneca said that if you don't know what port you're sailing to, no wind is favorable. And that's how most people live. They wake up and let the current pull them wherever it wants. But purpose is a direction you choose, not a destination you wait for. In the first few moments of the day, you can either drift into distraction or you can set a course. You don't need to solve your whole life before breakfast. You just need to remember what matters now. That might be a principle, like honesty or patience. It might be a priority, like being present with your family or finishing something that matters. Whatever it is, asking yourself this question cuts through the noise. It helps you act from clarity instead of reacting from habit. And no, you won't always get it right. But each time you start with purpose, you strengthen your compass. Your decisions feel more grounded. Your emotions feel less chaotic. You're not trying to win the day. You're trying to live it fully. So tomorrow, when your eyes open, before the phone, before the rush, pause and ask, what do I want this day to stand for? And then, let your actions follow that answer. Integrity isn't a buzzword. It's not just doing the right thing when people are watching. It's doing the right thing when no one ever will. To the Stoics, integrity wasn't about image. It was about alignment between your values and your actions, between your principles and your behavior. It's easy to talk about what you believe. It's harder to live it when it's inconvenient, uncomfortable, or unnoticed. Epictetus said, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. That means asking yourself every single morning, who do I want to be today? And then making a quiet commitment to live like it. Maybe it's telling the truth when a lie would make things easier. Maybe it's showing up fully even though no one expects you to. Maybe it's choosing kindness when frustration feels justified. Integrity isn't dramatic, it's subtle. It shows up in the choices that seem small but shape who you are. When you practice it daily, it builds something deep, self-trust. You start to believe in yourself not because of what you say, but because of what you do. That's when you stop chasing approval. You stop performing. You lead with honesty, and people feel it, even if they can't explain why. Because when you live with integrity, your presence carries weight. You become someone others can rely on. But more importantly, you become someone you can rely on. And in a world that's constantly trying to push you off center, that's a kind of power that can't be faked. We often think of courage as something dramatic, facing danger, taking big risks, making life-altering decisions. But for the Stoics, courage wasn't always loud. In fact, most of the time it was quiet, invisible, and deeply personal. Sometimes just getting out of bed is an act of bravery. Sometimes sending that message, saying no, or speaking up calmly in a tense moment, that's courage too. Seneca said, sometimes even to live is an act of courage. And that courage begins the moment you wake up, because each morning you are handed two options: stay where it's safe, or step, however slightly, into discomfort. The Stoics believed courage isn't the absence of fear, it's action in the face of it. Fear will always whisper reasons to wait, to avoid, to delay. But courage says, I'll move anyway. And it doesn't have to be grand. It could be a single honest conversation, showing up for a task you've been avoiding, admitting a mistake instead of defending your ego. Each time you choose a small act of courage, you train your mind to face life, not flinch from it. And like a muscle, the more you use it, the stronger it becomes. Morning is the ideal time to ask, what am I avoiding today? And then, gently, bravely, begin. Not because the fear is gone, but because you've remembered who you want to be. Courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it's just the decision not to retreat. And over time, those small steps create a life led not by avoidance, but by strength. We tend to think of self-awareness as something vague, maybe even mystical. But to the Stoics, knowing yourself wasn't a luxury, it was a necessity. Epictetus said, "No one is free who is not master of himself." And how can you master what you don't even notice? That's why each morning was a time to observe, to scan the mind the way a pilot checks their instruments. Not to judge, not to fix, but to see clearly. What's moving in me today? Is it anger, restlessness, fear? What story am I already telling myself before the day has even started? The Stoics knew that what you're not conscious of controls you. The automatic emotions, the recurring thoughts, the quiet beliefs that shape your choices. But when you notice them, honestly, without resistance, you gain something rare: space. Space between stimulus and response. Space to choose rather than react. And that space is where peace lives. Self-knowledge isn't about solving yourself. It's about recognizing patterns. It's noticing when you're slipping into old habits, rehearsing old stories, chasing old validation. And it's reminding yourself, gently, I don't have to follow this script. Each morning, take 2 minutes. Sit in silence. Observe. Don't analyze. Don't criticize. Just watch. What's here? What wants your attention? That's how self-mastery begins. Not through control, but through clarity. Because when you know what's happening inside you, the outside world loses its power to shake you. We chase happiness like it's waiting somewhere out there, after the next achievement, the next goal, the next version of ourselves. But the Stoics saw joy differently. To them, joy wasn't a prize for being productive. It was a way of walking through life, with attention, with presence, with appreciation for what is, not just what could be. Seneca warned that while we wait for life, life passes. And so the question becomes, are you living or just progressing? Morning is the perfect time to ask, what small thing can I enjoy today? Not as a means to an end, but as an end in itself. Maybe it's the warmth of a cup of coffee, the first light through your window, the quiet before the world wakes up. These aren't distractions. They are moments of aliveness. But you only experience them when you stop rushing through them. You begin to feel it in the ordinary. That doesn't mean ignoring pain or pretending life is always light. It means refusing to postpone joy until everything is perfect. The Stoics didn't wait for ideal conditions. They chose to see clearly and still say, there is something to appreciate even now. That's not naivety. That's strength. That's freedom. That's joy as a daily practice, not a distant reward. Every morning you wake up and the world starts speaking before you do. Messages, notifications, headlines, expectations. They rush in to tell you who you are, what you should want, and how fast you're falling behind. But beneath that noise, something quieter waits. Your own voice, your own intuition. And the truth is, we've become experts at ignoring it. The Stoics believed in listening, not just to others, but inward. Marcus Aurelius wrote about retreating into the self, not to escape, but to remember what's essential. Because if you never create space to hear your inner guidance, You'll spend your life following signals that were never meant for you. The morning is sacred for this reason. It's the only time you can still hear yourself before the algorithm starts shouting. So take it, protect it. Create silence, even if only for a few minutes. Breathe, then ask, what do I already know but have been afraid to admit? Sometimes intuition is a nudge. Sometimes it's a discomfort that won't leave you alone. It doesn't always shout, it often whispers. And it's easy to miss if you're constantly stimulated. But when you listen with honesty and stillness, you'll start to feel it. The truth you've been avoiding, the path you've been called to, the lie you've been living. Tuning into yourself doesn't mean rejecting reason. It means honoring it from the inside. It means trusting that part of you that sees clearly, even when the world tries to blur the lens. When you start your day from that place, decisions come with more clarity, reactions come with more calm, and you begin to live not from habit, but from alignment. In a world where everyone is always available, solitude starts to feel suspicious. If you're alone, you must be lonely. If you're quiet, you must be lost. But the Stoics knew better. They saw solitude not as absence, but as presence. Not a void, but a sacred ground where clarity grows. Marcus Aurelius said, "Nowhere can a man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." Morning is the moment to enter that retreat, not to escape life, but to meet it on your own terms. Before the messages, before the meetings, before the world demands your energy. Be with yourself, not on your phone, not in the future. Just here, just now. Sit, breathe, notice what rises. This is not about isolation, it's about reconnection. Solitude is where your thoughts untangle, where your emotions surface without judgment, where you remember who you are when no one is looking. And ironically, it's solitude that prepares you to connect more deeply with others. Because when you know how to sit with your own presence, you no longer demand others fill your emptiness. You approach life with wholeness, not hunger. It's in that stillness that real insight appears, not from scrolling, not from searching, but from listening. When you build a relationship with solitude, you create a place inside yourself that no one can shake, a peace that doesn't need noise to feel alive. So start the day, not by escaping yourself, but by sitting with yourself, in quiet, in curiosity, in power. There's a reason you feel exhausted before your day even starts. It's not the tasks, it's the mental load. The pressure to control things you never could. People's opinions, outcomes, the past, the algorithm, the weather, the mood of a stranger on the internet. The Stoics had a radical freeing idea. There are only two categories in life, what you can control and what you cannot. And your peace depends entirely on knowing the difference. Epictetus said, "Some things are up to us, and some things are not." And most suffering comes from trying to swap the two. That's why each morning is a chance to reset the lens. Ask yourself, what today is actually within my control? My words, my choices, my attention, my effort. Everything else, that belongs to the world. And no matter how much you worry, fixate, or obsess, you don't own it. Let it go, not in defeat, but in wisdom. This practice is not passive, it's empowering. It helps you stop wasting energy trying to edit other people's reactions or rearrange the world. Instead, you reclaim that energy for what's yours. Your response, your presence, your integrity. The more you sort the world this way, the more focused and free you become. You move from scattered to centered. You stop fighting battles that were never yours, and you start winning the one that always was, mastering yourself. So when the world feels chaotic, remember, you don't need to control everything. You just need to control how you meet it. We often think that to make an impact, we have to be loud, visible, impressive. But the Stoics believed the opposite. They saw real influence not in speeches or displays, but in presence, in integrity, in quiet consistency. Seneca said, "While we live, let us live to help others." That help doesn't always look heroic. Sometimes, it's a calm voice in a stressful room, a moment of patience when others are losing theirs, a steady hand when chaos begins to swirl. Every morning you have a choice. Will you be another echo of stress and reactivity, or a signal of calm and intention? And it starts not with the world, but with how you treat yourself. You can't radiate what you haven't built. So ask yourself, what do I need today to feel grounded, clear, alive? Is it a moment of silence? A kind word to myself? A reminder that I matter too? When you begin the day by filling your own cup, you become the kind of person others instinctively trust. because you trust yourself. And that's the real light, not perfection, not performance, but authenticity. It doesn't need attention to work. It works in silence. It changes the room without asking permission. So don't underestimate the power of how you show up today. In a world addicted to noise, your calm is a revolution. Your kindness is a message. Your example is a guide. And the person who benefits most from that light is you. Most people wake up already editing themselves, judging every thought, reacting to every emotion, trying to force their mind into shape like a problem that needs to be fixed. But the Stoics took a different approach. They didn't fight what they felt. They watched it. Epictetus said, "Examine everything you do and ask yourself, is this under my direction?" That kind of observation is powerful. Because when you watch your mind with honesty, without immediately needing to fix or change anything, you create space. And that space gives you freedom. In the morning, instead of trying to control your emotions, try simply noticing them. What thoughts are looping? What emotions are present? Where is your attention going on its own? This isn't passive, it's awareness. And awareness is the first step toward mastery. If you can observe a thought, you're not that thought. If you can notice an emotion, it loses its grip. You don't have to act on every impulse. You don't have to believe every story your mind tells. You just have to see it. Without panic, without judgment, just with presence. Over time, this practice changes how you move through the day. You become less reactive, more thoughtful, less pulled, more centered. You respond instead of explode. You lead yourself instead of being led by mood swings. So tomorrow morning, try this. Sit, breathe, and just watch. Don't fix, don't rush, just witness. That's not inaction, that's inner leadership. If you live even one morning off autopilot, you'll feel the difference. Now imagine if there were 10 mornings like that, or 30, or 100. You're not just waking up, you're waking up for yourself.